Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Today, as always, Yathin Volution. I'm Alexander Mishan. We're the co-founders of Greenfi, the Bearded Legions, as we're commonly known, right? And today, our topic is process automation, the security of your profiles, LinkedIn profiles, email profiles, and automation in both areas. We'll start with LinkedIn, then we'll add a bit about email and explain how it all ties together. Well, during the LinkedIn part, I think Jen, you'll also cover email automation. But then at the end, we'll add more on where you can buy these emails and so on. So thank you for being with us today. Let's get started.
Well, the first topic we'll cover in today's stream is indeed operational security. I'll start, of course, with LinkedIn. There are several key benchmarks, and we'll start from a security standpoint. What your LinkedIn profile should be like to avoid getting banned or restricted in terms of age and in terms of connection requests. LinkedIn, right now, as we've said many times, doesn't like new profiles. In 90% of cases, after you register, you'll be sent for mandatory verification. You'll have to go through it, and you might not even pass because LinkedIn also has bugs and glitches in this area that just physically prevent you from completing the verification. So that's why I recommend using for outreach profiles that are, well, at least 3 months old. And here's another important point. A profile's age, in fact, is counted not from the moment the profile was created, but from the moment it got its first network connection, that is, its first contact. Let's say you registered on LinkedIn in 2015, but added your first contact the day before yesterday. Well, for LinkedIn, that won't look trustworthy, not at all. So develop your profiles, build them up. Of course, there are, as we've already mentioned, rental services that provide normal, warmed up profiles. There are rental services that provide profiles even less than 1 month old, and they work just fine. But unfortunately, they have their own secrets, which I don't know, so I can't share them. Maybe we'll find our own secret sauce for this topic, and then we'll tell you how to do it. So the minimum profile age is 3 months. And the minimum number of connections I recommend starting with is at least 100 connections in your network. Ideally, of course, from 500. Then the profile looks more trustworthy if it's a sales profile because, well, it looks a bit strange when someone is doing outreach, selling something with a super well filled, optimized profile with all the positions and descriptions, but has, let's say, 20 connections in their network. That immediately says that it's either just the beginning or a hypothesis. Here's a little tip on how to expand your network. I strongly advise against using any kind of bots or services to boost subscribers or connections. Because in our experience, no matter how many times we've tried, we say order 200 connections and 50 of them come through. Yes, they come in steadily, gradually, so not all 50 arrive at once, they're spread out over several days. But at the same time, on the second or third day, the profile gets bloated. Of course, LinkedIn doesn't state the objective reasons, but you can guess, especially considering that those adding you as friends are usually the same kind of bots with low SSI, with a low level of connections, new accounts, and so on. So, accordingly, LinkedIn tracks this as well. To grow your network of contacts manually, I recommend creating a profile as a specialist in some popular field. For example, in development, a senior developer or software engineer who are popular with recruiters. And just send connection requests to recruiters. Recruiters, HRs, in this case, they accept these requests more actively. So you'll have a high conversion rate for accepted invites. It's both trustworthy and you'll grow your network of contacts much faster.
And the second option, if I may add it right away. The second option, which also works quite well and then gives a certain, what's it called? A certain boost, is to create a profile of a C-level decision maker of your ideal client and go add your competitors' salespeople. This also has a pretty high acceptance rate. They accept you without issues, and then through Sales Navigator, you can scrape their contacts and add them to your mailing list. That works pretty well too.
The next main indicator of profile security is directly the limits, the number of actions you can perform per day. And here it's actually quite simple. I'll just name the approximate limits you can use for each profile type. I'll say right away, I'm talking about profiles that are already warmed up, that have participated in outreach. They have a good age and a good network. So a regular warmed up profile without a premium account can send an average of 20 invites per day, operating 6 to 7 days a week. Not always seven, sometimes on the sixth day it already hits the limit, but it's something like that. If we're talking about premium profiles, the cheapest package is Business Premium. With it, you can try to ramp up profiles to 30 to 35 invites. We are currently experimenting, trying to ramp it up to 40, but for now, well, with mixed success. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sales Navigator is a fairly expensive package, and accordingly, you can use it to boost your connection requests to about 50 per day. I know of cases where people send 70 or even 90 connections with Sales Navigator, but, well, I personally wouldn't risk it. Because, after all, your account is valuable to you, and developing a new one would be difficult. So it's better to do a little less, but be confident that it's safe. And the only nuance is, by the way, last week a new bug appeared on LinkedIn. Many people have encountered that on Monday. After sending, as a rule, I noticed 15 connection requests, the profile gets restricted until the next week. This is really a widespread issue. Many LinkedIn users have it. And both those who use automation and those who don't have faced this problem. And after this bug, we are starting to notice that LinkedIn Sales Navigator no longer gives such a big boost to these connection requests. That is, on the same business premium. Most likely, in the near future, it'll be possible to do more or less the same volume that Navigator allows. And accordingly, the question arises, why overpay more? If you don't need the direct functionality of Navigator for filtering and scraping audiences, then in principle, you can switch to a cheaper package because the main goal in terms of limits remains about the same. The number of connection requests is the main indicator that you should focus on, and all other indicators are more or less proportional to this. If we're talking about sending direct messages, I recommend doing up to 50 per day on a profile without premium, and with premium, 70 to 90 in principle can be sent. Next, if we're talking about in-mails, well, in principle, we can only talk about them in the context of premium because, well, there is a way to send an in-mail without having premium. This can be done on the profiles of people who have the open profile checkbox enabled, but in this case, LinkedIn allows you to send a maximum of 3 or 4 of them per month. But if we're talking about business premium, about Sales Navigator, of course, there are credits, a certain number that you can send to absolutely any profile. But again, if a person has an open profile, then LinkedIn allows you to send quite a lot of these messages per month. But on a daily basis, I recommend sending no more than 15 to 20. So those are the approximate limits. And next, among the automatic actions, what do we have? Also, withdrawing connection requests. In principle, it's mandatory to do this for security because if you accumulate too large a queue of outgoing connections, LinkedIn marks that as a red flag. To them, it looks something like, well, if people don't accept your friend request, then something is probably wrong. It means you're probably a spammer, or you don't have the trust of your audience, or you're violating the policy in some way. Accordingly, you need to pay attention to such a profile and monitor it. And withdrawing connection requests, 20 to 30 every day, no more. Next are the automatic ones, well, what the tools offer in most cases. These are engagement actions, like commenting on posts, liking posts, endorsing skills, and directly visiting profiles. And if we're talking about comments and likes, I would recommend setting it to no more than 20 to 25 per day. Endorsements also around 20, but there's another point here. Many tools allow you to endorse several skills at once on a single profile. I don't recommend doing this because the notification will still be just one for that user. But at the same time, well, liking 5, 6, 10 skills on one profile will look like some kind of pilgrimage. Let's call it that. And as for profile visits, in principle, I strongly recommend not using this feature because it has a low conversion rate. I've recently read a study about how many people on LinkedIn have premium profiles, but it seems to be no more than 20%. So you can fully view your visitors, or rather, well, the people who visited your profile only with a premium account. A regular account will get a notification, like, for example, John Doe and 20 other people viewed your profile. To see the full list, purchase premium. So, first of all, in most cases, your visit won't be seen. Secondly, it gets lost among other actions and notifications that come from LinkedIn. And the third point for LinkedIn itself, this is a very triggering action. If you view too many profiles, you can get restricted. Even on free profiles, you might have noticed that if you view profiles regularly, I don't know, like whether for audience selection or if you're, for example, recruiting some specialists and viewing them. If you don't have premium on your profile, after about a week of such active viewing, your search for second and third degree contacts will basically be blurred out, and you can only see the first three people. So LinkedIn is directly telling you that's it. You have a limit for this month. You can't view more second and third degree contacts without premium. And in general, LinkedIn perceives overly active profile viewing as some kind of automated action. So I don't recommend doing it. And if you're meticulously selecting an audience, viewing, for example, every lead when building an audience, then I recommend doing such views either without being logged into a profile at all, if possible. That is, to a certain extent, LinkedIn allows you to more or less fully view profiles without being logged in. But if it doesn't allow it, take another profile that doesn't participate in outreach. Or again, just take some throwaway profile that you just created and view and select profiles from it, so as not to expose your main accounts to risk, which already have a pretty heavy load. Participate in mailings, and on top of that, in parallel with automation, at about the same time, you are also very actively viewing profiles. Well, you can't call it a limit. It's just a pattern we've noticed. You can't open many tabs at once on LinkedIn, no more than five simultaneously open tabs. If you, for example, again, go through a search and open 20 people's pages at once and then systematically view them, first, the very act of opening them happens very quickly. And second, there are too many active tabs. And LinkedIn also really dislikes that. It can get triggered by it. Regarding the limits, that's probably all. Sash, maybe at this stage you have something to add specifically about the limits?
No, not about LinkedIn. The only thing is about profile views. Well, for example, I don't do views at all. I might just check someone who replied during the day. But in principle, if you do need to view them, then what Jenya said is right. It's a separate profile, and it's better to have some kind of premium on it after all. Because for Sales Navigator, you need business premium, according to LinkedIn. They don't say by how much, but it increases this limit on profile views. That is, they say openly that if you buy a paid subscription from us, you can view more people. How many more? They don't say. We asked once, and they told us that, well, there are automatic algorithms. It's just more. So if you really need it, you buy premium and view them. Just understand for yourself that this is not a conversion action. You are doing it only to see who it is.
Let's move on. Now, not about limits, but about general profile metrics that LinkedIn might pay attention to and that you should pay attention to. The first is the number of active sessions. The more sessions you have, meaning logins from different devices, the more closely LinkedIn looks at it, especially if these logins happen from completely different locations. That is, within a country, it's normal. LinkedIn has certain peculiarities. It doesn't always, in principle, correctly detect the location of your login. It could be another country. It might detect a point of presence instead of the final point from where your traffic is coming. This happens, indeed, but if there are too many sessions and they are all active, for LinkedIn, this is a trigger. Well, one person can't be in 5, 10, 15 places at the same time, and so on. LinkedIn does not delete your sessions on its own. If you once logged in, for example, from a phone, and then decided to change your phone, I don't know, you deleted the app from it, completely cleaned it, reset it to factory settings, LinkedIn's record of this login will still remain, and it will consider it an active session. So periodically go to your profile settings. I think this setting is in the sign in and security section, and check how many active sessions you have. By the way, I also remembered another funny bug LinkedIn has. Sometimes it doesn't see sessions at all. You go to your profile to see what sessions you have, and it says you have zero. Although that's physically impossible because, well, you had to log into this profile from somewhere. So the first is the number of sessions. The second point is profile verification. It doesn't directly affect security, but if you were able to pass verification and you have that check mark from Persona, that's good. The only thing is, again, Persona, for example, doesn't work well with Ukrainian documents. For example, I still can't get verified because for some reason Persona doesn't like the chip in my passport. If you fail an attempt, don't make 10 in a row, 12 in a row. You tried once, Persona says the documents are not suitable. Put this attempt off for a month. In a month, try with a different document because very persistent attempts to verify yourself can also raise certain questions from LinkedIn. Yes, I've mentioned the age and size of the network. Basically, activity, yes. That is, if your profile, for example, for the last 2 months, let's say it's well developed, has a large network of contacts, you posted frequently, you have a high SSI, and so on. But for the last month or two, you haven't been actively working from it, don't immediately start using the profile at its maximum possible limits. Start with less. For example, if the profile is without premium, start with 5 invites a day, and every couple of days, increase this count by one unit. And so gradually ramp up the profile because a very sharp spike in activity will raise questions. And the last thing I'll mention is a no less important point, but unfortunately, you can't control it directly. Like, for example, deleting extra sessions. It's not possible. These are your conversions, after all. How often people accept you, how high your open rates and reply rates are, how often people block you. So, well, it's not always possible to understand that a person has blocked you. But if you've detected this, for example, again, in our Grinfi, you can see if a block came from one of the users. If you're a direct LinkedIn user, well, you can just see, for example, a person got angry with you, and then the dialogue was quickly deleted and they disappeared from your contacts. So, well, it's 99% likely that the person blocked you and complained about you, most likely. In such cases, we immediately stop outreach for at least a few days, and after that, we lower the limits and slowly start to ramp up again. Because even one complaint from a user for harassment, for spam, for anything is already a reason for LinkedIn to block you. And in most cases, that's what happens. One complaint, and you are immediately sent for document verification, for identity verification. The next important point is, again, open rates and, as a result, reply rates. And a little peculiarity is now appearing on LinkedIn, similar to how emails work. On LinkedIn, it's worth using spin tags. Why is that? Because of absolutely identical messages. I mean, well, LinkedIn doesn't have a spam folder as such, but if, for example, your message when testing a hypothesis, it is rarely opened, then LinkedIn automatically starts to put this message into a folder called unimportant. And a lot of people don't see this message. Accordingly, using spin tags, randomizing the message even at the synonym level, helps to avoid this.
By the way, I forgot to tell you, LinkedIn has already gone further, and the unimportant folder has now been renamed to spam. I recently saw the other day that I have a spam folder on LinkedIn. So now it's literally spam. So right now it's spin tax, managing open rates, reply rates. This is all becoming a very important story because a spam folder appears, and really, if the open rates are low, the messages will end up in spam. By the way, it also tracks the open rate.
Yes, and the final point is, again, the connection acceptance rates. Here, well, in principle, there are two solutions. If you use several profiles in your outreach, and for example, two profiles get a normal conversion rate for accepted connections, but one profile is lagging behind, you just need to analyze what those two profiles have that the third one doesn't and try to fix the third one. This is again provided that all profiles are targeting the same audience. Another point, if the connection rates are low everywhere, it just means the audience on LinkedIn is not active and you need to change it. You need to test new hypotheses, new target niches, industries, new geography, and so on.
It seems everything is working. Okay, all right, friends. Well, we are now inside Grinfi. Those who are our users know this page. Those who aren't users yet, I hope will find out in the near future. This is the analytics page, and here are conversions. Yes, I'll just show you proof that what I'm talking about really works because our conversion rate for accepted connection requests is almost 40%, a 21% reply rate, and an open rate of over 50%. And this is due to both spin tax and profile rotation. Well, I will now tell you about everything in more detail. Uh, okay, well, and we'll move right on to the automations page. This is the list of automations. Here we can immediately see what our conversions are for each of them. There, we just started this one. It's still at 10%. These are automations that have been running for a long time. Here we have 55, 60, 40%. These are the connection request rates. Here we see the reply rates and so on. Here we can see how many tasks we have left in each automation, meaning how many leads we have at each stage in the automation to control our volumes. Because we added leads, created an automation, and lost it. Then you need to keep adding contacts there if the automation gives great conversions. So we see that there are about 6,000, about 3,000 invites, about 8,000 as we just started testing this hypothesis. And we continue working like that. Okay, let's go into our favorite automation, the one we play with during demos to show what's happening here and how it works. Okay, and first, let's go over the general steps, what's actually here. All the standard functions are there, of course. That is sending connection requests, withdrawing connection requests, sending messages, in-mails, emails, because it's a multi-channel platform, right? Visits, likes, all of that is included. We also have profile rotation. Profile rotation is a very cool story. Thanks to it, we increased the conversion by another 30% on top of what we got at the beginning. Because on LinkedIn, there's a subjective element where our potential lead adds contacts based on personal preference, based on personal interest. So when, for example, I try to connect with you and for some reason you don't like my face or my headline or something else, you can decline my request, reject it, right? And I won't get into your contacts. But our system will make it so that in, say, 15, 20, 25 days, however long we set it, the system will make another attempt from a different LinkedIn profile. And if we want, another one from a different one and another, and so on until it gets through to you. As soon as you accept this invite, you enter our funnel, the same one you would have entered from the start. Well, but for you, it's already a different contact from a different person and a different dialogue. Sesh, I'll stop you for a second just to explain in more detail how the rotation actually works. So, this is not just a function that you can use if your request was not accepted. Technically, you can use it at any stage. Sash, please minimize the window with the nodes so people can see. So, technically, the automation looks like a waterfall. We have nodes through which a person goes lower, lower, and lower. There are branches you can go left, you can go right, depending on the options, but in fact, the person goes down. What does sender profile rotation do? You place it at a certain stage, and it forces the person who has reached this node to return to the very top. At the very top, change the profile and go through this entire path again. A similar one, but just with a different profile. So this isn't just about when your contact request isn't accepted. Yeah, well, yeah. I'm just sharing more about how I use it. I always use it in this particular way, but in principle, Jenya is right. Yes, and very briefly about the nodes. Webhooks and API calls can be made at any stage. So you can transfer data to a CRM or enrich your contacts right within the sequence. Again, here's an example of how we do it. If you know there's a product called SendSpark, well, or its competitors, anyone who makes personalized videos, in terms of addressing by name, in terms of some background that we show, and so on. So when you make videos with them, you pay for a certain number of credits for a certain number of contacts. But when we do a LinkedIn sequence, we get, well, from 20 to 40% of accepted invites, right? So we don't need to enrich these other 60 to 80% with this video and spend credits in SendSpark. So we send a webhook after an invite is accepted. Add the webhook to SendSpark, and SendSpark creates a video specifically for the person who has already accepted our invite. Returns the link to the video and sends them a message with this link. It saves resources for other channels, but again, you can use it however you want. Only your imagination is the limit. Next, there's A B testing, of course. There are condition rules. Well, but let's talk about that inside. So you can send, for example, a connection request. Here it's being sent, it's sent empty. Often empty connection requests convert better than connection requests with text. You need to test this with an A B test. Well, but often it really works that way. So we can do an A B test right here and set our empty connection request as one of the variations. And in the other, create the same send connection request, but with text. And first of all, there are AI variables, which means you can create variables through a prompt to the artificial intelligence. For example, you can translate a name from Latin to Cyrillic, or for instance, remove various emojis and smileys from the name. Or, for example, extract only the first name from the full name. Because it often happens that people, maybe even intentionally to spot automation, write their last name first, then their first name on LinkedIn. And then it turns out you're writing, hello, Mishan, or hello, Voloshin. I'm selling you something, right? Well, that immediately shows it's automation, and that's bad. You can use a variable, an artificial intelligence variable, to write a prompt that will contain only the first name and substitute only the first name. Next, well, there are countless standard ones: first and last name, headlines, positions, companies. So there are a lot of them. You can create your own variables, like names, to introduce yourself, state positions, any custom variables that you like. And regarding a spin tax, here's a spin tax template. So you select it. And right here, using this straight slash, you write all the options you want to use. It can be a greeting option like hey, hello, bonjour, hi, have a nice day, or I don't know, something else. Meaning you can write separate long sentences inside the spin tax and create a personal address for each one. There's also a great variable that I often use for an English speaking audience. It's the nowadays variable. Where is it? I have now weekday here. Now weekday, so we can greet with happy weekday. And every day the system will substitute the current day. Happy Wednesday, happy Thursday, happy Friday, and so on. And this also, first of all, adds a little, at least a little bit of randomization to your message. And secondly, it reduces the likelihood that the person will think it's automation because, well, you're writing the current day. Even if it's automation, it's like you're creating a new one every day. And next, what else is interesting? There are condition rules, and Jenya was just setting them up so we can show it right away. There are condition rules. Condition rules is a tool that, using filters inside Greenfi, can set up any automation selection. That is, you can use any filter, whether they have an open profile, whether there is any content on the page, or how many contacts or followers the lead has. We collect all of this, so you can set it up so that if a lead has an open profile, I write them an InMail. If there's no open profile, I do a profile rotation. If a lead has more than 500 contacts, I'll try to connect with them first. If not, I'll set a time delay for a week. And in the first week, I'll process all those who have more than 500 contacts. So, any of the filters and automation, and there are a lot of them, you can use to distribute your contacts according to certain rules. For example, I also use a rule like this, and we have it set up in a separate flow. There. This is the rule we set where we want to wait for some time to see if a person will reply. Here it appears, and if they don't reply, we do one action. If they replied, we do another action. In any case, the automation pauses when a person replies, so this rule isn't mandatory. But for example, I have an automation set up where if the person doesn't reply, we send a cold follow up. And if they do reply, we do a presentation. And when I see that the person replies positively, like I'm interested, I click continue automation to resume the automation. It goes to the node where they replied. And there, the presentation for yes, I'm interested begins for them. And if they didn't reply to this, they go into a cold outreach sequence where we provide some content and so on. So, this is also a very interesting, cool feature that I recommend using. This is more for automating actions within a dialogue to save your time when a person has already replied. Soon we'll have an actual AI SDR, and that'll be even more interesting. But until then, this is a minimum viable approach. Plus, there are AI templates. You can write your own message templates with prompts for the artificial intelligence, which will personalize them based on information from your lead's profile. That's all the main points on automation. Jen, do you have anything to add about automation, or should I move on to the messenger?
Well, the only thing, again, for more advanced users who want to really, really personalize everything, is that in advanced variables, there are variable functions, meaning you can create complex scenarios with checks. For example, checking a custom field. If this field has a value, if the field isn't empty, then we use it. If the field is empty and has no information, we either use a generic word or switch to another variable. Well, but again, this is more for advanced use from the perspective of if you often use custom values, for example, and you can't be sure that a service has provided you with that custom value.
Okay, we set up the automation, launched the sequence. Next up is the messenger. For example, right now we have 7 unread messages. We can see on which profiles they are unread. We can see from whom they are unread. We can sort them to see only the unread ones. We can see only emails, only in-mails, only LinkedIn. From certain automations, from certain lists where leads are stored. There are also a lot of filters here. And when we go in, for example, we have Lyavov Kuznetsova who replied to me, and there is a button, automation paused after reply. So I can click now, do unpause automations, and then when it gets into the next automation, it will receive it. Right now, if it enters it, it won't receive it. It'll go to tasks. We'll get to tasks now. Another important feature in the messenger is the overview for each lead. We can see the number of connections, followers, headlines, and contact details. We find about 50% of emails right now. We're going to build a new engine. We'll find more, but well, for now, it's up to about 50%. The About section, all the experience, posts, so we can see all the main information from their account here. Also, here we would see what automations they have if they were currently in an active one, but here's the finished one. So they were in an automation. Grinfi Sales Demo UA. This was back in August, and some kind of sequence was run for them. Next, what else is important? The tasks I'm talking about, they serve as a notification that you have a lead on pause and you can unpause it. And they are also something manual. So, roughly speaking, if a lead replies to you, remind me about this in a month, for example, you can create a task for yourself here from a specific LinkedIn profile. For example, in our case, we're communicating from Alessia's on a specific date to write something like, remind me about this. Or you can just write the message you want to send them right away. Create this task and it will appear in the task section, and then you can come back to it. And the messenger also has our pipeline stages, which are customizable.
Sash, please stop for a moment. I'll definitely add more about the so called manual tasks that you just showed. Please don't confuse this with scheduled messages. It's not a scheduled message, it's purely a notification system. That is, you have a separate menu with manual tasks where a person goes every day and sees what tasks they have for today. Even if you press, again, Sasha will show this later, the complete button, the task is not executed. You just mark it as completed. You just note that you have completed it. So this is completely manual work. Even if you've written a template, you copy it, paste it, send it manually, and then you complete it. These are not scheduled messages. We have a task in our backlog to make scheduled messages similar to how Telegram has them, but we don't have that yet. For now, it's just a task planning system.
Yes, there will be scheduled messages a little later. And there are also pipeline stages. Yes, so you customize them for yourself. But there are replied negative and replied positive, which are a bit grayed out now and hard to see. Because we are building an AI agent that will help you analyze lead responses and send them to negative or positive. And you will be able to set up automation based on this so that if there was a positive response, do this. If negative, do that. Roughly speaking, yes. And this will come a little later, but we are already working on it. So they have already appeared here in gray. Others, like negotiations, our client, and so on, are all custom fields that you create yourself. And now for the tasks. For example, today we see 19 tasks. The ones that are crossed out like this are manual tasks that the SDR created for himself. The ones that say automation, we open them. And we see that our automation has stopped. This is a classic message from the automation. Why did it stop? Because back in April, there was a reply from the lead. We didn't unpause it. Well, we understand that we can unpause it. So I click unpause automations, and that's it. Now he will receive his first message today. And so we go through each one and decide whether to unpause it or not. Basically, that's all for tasks. Everything is very simple here. You open it, look at it, and decide if you want to do it or that. If you need to complete the task manually, you create a message here, copy it, and send it here. At the bottom where you see complete, complete is just closing the task. It will simply disappear. I mean, it won't do anything. It will just disappear as a completed task, and it will show here that it's done. And if you cancel it, it will be canceled. Basically, that seems to be all for automation. Zinnia, if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Well, the one thing you didn't show, I'll probably quickly share my screen now. This is a quick look at the general settings section, but what's here? Accordingly, here you can create the custom variables that Sasha mentioned. Here we also have the tag manager, where we can see all the tags we have. We can see how many people have this tag assigned to them. We can click here, and a list of these people will open in a new tab. Here we also have pipeline sieges. As we said, 4 of them are now default, they are automatic. Replied positive and replied negative will also become automatic. Everything else is fully customizable for you. You can rename them, you can delete them, add them. You can change their places so that they are in some kind of order. Similarly, there are separate webhooks that are not related to the custom call in automation. They are very easy to create on our end. You give it a name, paste the link for the receiving party, and simply select the event that will trigger it. That is, you can have the webhook trigger when any reply comes in on LinkedIn, or you can have it trigger when a reply comes in via email. When a connection request is accepted, when, for example, you have an error with a profile, it either logged out or the proxy failed, and so on. You can also create a webhook that will notify you that something is currently wrong with the profile. Well, API keys, it's clear. The API keys are just stored here. LinkedIn filters. A separate function, not very popular, but it allows you to find decision makers from specific companies using Sales Navigator without any external tools like Clay, Apollo, and so on. It works slowly, but it's accurate and cool. What's interesting are the stop lists. This means you can immediately upload a list here, for example, of your current clients or people with whom communication didn't go well, and you know you shouldn't write to them. You can immediately upload this list here. And if these people have already been uploaded to the CRM, they will simply be deleted from it. And in future attempts, if they are added to the CRM, at the import stage, such people will be blocked and deleted from this import. And accordingly, LLM integrations. Here we have a default system LLM, the basic OpenAI, and we can connect the most popular artificial intelligence providers that we use, so that in the future, again with their help, we can create either AI variables or some AI templates that will personalize your messages. And in principle, at this stage, I think that's all.
Yes, well, yeah, today we agreed not to do a full demo, but to show the automation itself. Whoever needs a full demo, just come to our website, make a request in support, or just click book a demo there. Book the demo, and we will show you specifically for your request what can be done on Grinfi. Well, it's a separate story. We'll do it with pleasure. Book a meeting, we'll tell you about it, we'll show you,
That's it. On this note, we'll say goodbye.
and have a great end of the week. Bye.